you may look at survivingbreastcancer.org and be like, wow, like she's got the website, she's got social media, she's got these programs, etc. But what you don't necessarily see, and this is so true on social media in general, is like the blood and tears that go into this work all of the time. And so for me, it really has to be, and you talked to Jesse a little bit about like your why, like why are you doing this?
Hey, it's Jesse Garza, and this is the Premier Leadership Podcast. Today, I'm excited to have my first guest, Laura Carfang with survivingbreastcancer.org. Laura, how are you today? Thank you for being on the show and welcome.
Great. Thank you, Jesse. I'm so excited to be here and to be working with you and to share my experience in the nonprofit space. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'd like to definitely get into some of the amazing work that you're doing with survivingbreastcancer.org. But first, would you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about your story and what led you to the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like when you go into the nonprofit space, there's always, a reason, a pivot point. For me, it was my own personal experience being diagnosed with breast cancer in my 30s, which was well before even being screened with my first mammogram. Here in the United States, women don't normally get screened until the age of 40 unless they're high risk. And so you can only imagine just like not really even being having cancer on my radar, how shocking it was to find out that I was diagnosed with an early stage breast cancer at the time. And so after going through probably, I would say like 18 months, almost 2 years of treatment from chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, more chemotherapy, hormonal therapies, all of these things for a number of years. I remember sitting in an Airbnb because my parents are coming up to visit me here in Boston where I was being treated. And they're like, so what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, a cancer diagnosis really puts things in perspective. And so, the paper jam in the office didn't seem so important anymore. Being stuck in traffic and you're a few minutes late and like sweating bullets because you're late for work just didn't seem as important anymore. And so we decided to launch a nonprofit called survivingbreastcancer.org.
Nice. Did you do that in response to like some gaps that you saw in the field or in the air, that space?
Absolutely. So, being treated in Boston, I was so lucky to have access to some excellent hospitals and, a community here. But even in this metropolitan area, there were still silos. And that was really shocking to me. This was the first time that I've actually gone through such an extensive experience with the healthcare system. I've been pretty healthy up until a cancer diagnosis. And so understanding what it was like to work with social workers or to have access to support groups, trying to find peers my own age in their 30s when I was diagnosed was this uphill battle. I thought people would come crawling out of the woodwork saying, oh my gosh, I'm on the other side, or here's some tips that you can learn from or what you can expect to go through. And I was not finding that. What I ended up doing was turning to social media, like so many people these days do. But this was back in 2016, 2017, 2018, where, I don't think social media is what it is now. And I started a YouTube channel. I just started to look up people's videos who were talking about being diagnosed with breast cancer. And I started recording my own experience with breast cancer. This was instead of blogging, I turned to vlogging basically. I was going to be too tired to write and keep my family and friends updated. So, just pulling out my phone and making really DIY type of videos of, oh, today, my hair's falling out. Like, this is part of the process. Or today, I'm getting my head shaved because I don't want to deal with the hair falling out. Like, really just short snippets. But that actually started to create a community. That started to create, people responding. People were resonating with what I was sharing. And even though it was like raw and I was just putting myself out there, which is also very scary to do, it actually gave me the support that I needed. And so after going through these 18 months of treatment, I realized I had this arsenal of content, these videos I created, these personal experiences. And so it just led itself naturally to starting a nonprofit around providing education. My formal background is in education. I worked in higher education for a number of years. And now that I'm able to pivot and now educate the cancer community, which has been really rewarding.
That's quite an amazing story and journey for sure. And yeah, I can definitely appreciate and relate to the fact that your background in education, you wanted to give back to people in need based on that experience.
Hmm.
I have similar experience with training and education as well. That's kind of why I'm doing this as well. Is there what kind of what values would you say have guided you as far as your leadership style in doing this work? And do you have a team? Do you like lead anybody, or is it just kind of a one person program?
No, we are growing. We have a really strong team. We could always use more help. We have a team that helps on our program management side. We provide over or approximately like 400 virtual programs a year. So from support groups, art therapy, expressive writing, and if people have an internet connection and can join virtually, these programs are 100% free to anyone in the breast cancer community. I'm very lucky that I work alongside my husband, who was my caregiver during my treatment. And so I guess depending on who's listening, it could be a plus or minus to work full time with your husband and live together and dine together. So every single day we're constantly talking about, there's so much more we could be doing. And I think part of this in terms of like the values and like what keeps us motivated, not to mention the number of volunteers that just dedicate and donate their time to helping us thrive as an organization. I think it really comes down to like that North Star. Like, really, we're trying to help people who've been diagnosed with breast cancer. There are like thousands of nonprofits out there of all sizes, and they all do incredible work. So I always say, let's collaborate. We're not here for competition, even though we are all looking out for the same dollar and trying to get funding to sustain ourselves. Cancer is such a tricky and complicated and devastating diagnosis, and that's stressful enough. So I always tell my team that the work that we do at survivingbreastcancer.org should never be stressful. The moment is no longer fun. The moment is no longer like making you happy, then this is not the right fit. And we have to kind of stop and pull back. And that has really helped me find balance, even though I am kind of a workaholic. I love it. I'm addicted to my work. But at the same time, the moment it's not fun anymore, I know something has to change.
Yes, that's so key. Like remembering your why, basically, and that will always kind of guide you to get back on path if you kind of tend to stray. And then, yeah, that's got to be, you got to maintain the enjoyment. Yeah, that's very profound.
Yes.
Well, next month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right? So, moving as we move into that month, what are your, kind of key goals or plans for moving
Oh,
into that?
it is so busy. Thank you for asking. And so, it's funny because we really start planning for Breast Cancer Awareness Month like early to midsummer. And then right now, as at the time of this recording, I know it's September. And so we are like in the thick of like planning and executing that ideally by the time October comes, we are on autopilot, that all of the work leading up to the month has been underway. But for us, I've been in this space for about 8 years now, and Breast Cancer Awareness Month has been very yin and yang for me, especially as the leader for survivingbreastcancer.org. My diagnosis, I was diagnosed at the end of September in 2016. And so my treatment really began in October after a couple of appointments. October was the month where I got my first chemotherapy infusion, started losing my hair, all of these things. And I was really excited to have Breast Cancer Awareness Month in my month of like going through this. I was, felt supported by all the pink ribbons everywhere. I remember going to a store and they were like, "Oh, do you want stamps with a pink ribbon on them?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. I need to buy stamps for like with the pink ribbon." Or, "Do you want to donate?" And, a lot of stores will offer some sort of, discount if you donate during the month or proceeds go to certain places. So, I was wearing the pink ribbon until like I felt so great that first October. Then I started getting more involved in the community and not realizing how triggering also Breast Cancer Awareness Month can be. And now that I'm a little bit further out from my initial diagnosis, I can definitely see how this overwhelm of pink ribbons can just really make you feel like, oh gosh, I don't want to remember this anymore. I'm back to work. My hair is back. I'm feeling better. My family life is better. I don't need to be reminded of such a tragic moment. And so being able to acknowledge that not everybody is celebrating the same way others might be during this month, I think is really important. A couple other things that I'd like to share just for listeners and knowledge sake is that while we associate Breast Cancer Awareness Month with the pink ribbon, for those who are living with metastatic breast cancer, it is actually a terminal disease for which there is no cure. And they have their own ribbon, actually. It's three colors, which is the pink that represents the breast cancer ribbon, but also a teal and a green. And so I just bring that up as well because while we're talking about Breast Cancer Awareness Month, metastatic breast cancer does not get a lot of publicity in this month either. And so that could just be something that people who are listening might be on the lookout for, how they can get more involved and really if we can start solving the problems at the top, if you will, from if we can solve metastatic disease, everyone else with early stage cancer will benefit from that.
Oh yeah, that's very good information. Thank you for sharing that. I wasn't even aware of that myself.
Yeah. And then we also say, breast cancer doesn't just show up in October, it is a 365 type of disease. And so I also just remind people, whether, especially for us running a nonprofit, donations are fantastic during the month of October, but please remember all of your nonprofit allies throughout the year because we're dealing with breast cancer on Thanksgiving. We're dealing with breast cancer around the holidays when a lot of pressure tends to be put on us. You're dealing with family, maybe extra chores and work around the house, preparing for the holidays, and you might just be feeling tired or fatigued or exhausted or just simply tired of repeating your story every time like the distant relative is asking how you're feeling, right? And so just to head into this season with compassion and just understanding where those who have been diagnosed with cancer are coming from.
Um, I have a question about the way the way we see the world kind of going, the direction we see the world going into. Where do you see AI, or how do you see AI impacting the work that you do with SBC?
I am so excited for AI. I am such a dork in the most positive, greatest way of just jumping into technology. I really think that if we can embrace technology and bring it to the work that we're doing, it really is an accelerator and can help propel the work and amplify the work that we're doing like tenfold. So, in terms of learning AI, I'm just jumping right in. I'm trying to sign up for every 14-day pre-trial subscription I can to play around with the technology and to learn and to have fun and not to take myself too seriously with it because, that's part of the learning. One example is I created an avatar of myself. It's not public yet. We'll see if it ever goes public. But I created like an AI generated avatar of me that talks and can answer your questions. I'm like, how fun is that? So you can only imagine that that kind of freaked my husband out, but now he has two of me. But, this is what it is. If we can leverage technology in this fun example, but, what applications does this actually bring to the industry? I think could really be very profound. We're already seeing how AI is being used in the clinical setting, especially with radiology and mammography. So if you have these huge data sets of understanding what tumors look like, um, and especially in hard for the human eye to see and evaluate dense breast tissue as an example, AI has the power to actually analyze and take these data sets and come up with recommendations. I'm not going to go into the specifics because I'm not a medical doctor, but we are starting to see a lot of really positive benefits that give us as patients a lot of hope for how AI is driving cancer, breast cancer specifically, in the right direction.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, I know a lot of people have concerns, and there's always going to be maybe pitfalls with everything, every new technology and every new innovation. But yeah, it's
Hmm.
good to see that you're embracing it. You're going to try to use it for the value that it can bring, and kind of enhance what you're doing and help people. Because I think
Well, it's here. So I feel like if we don't embrace it, we're going to be left behind.
that absolutely, yeah, I completely agree as far as that
Hmm.
thought process. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we want to help people, right? So like if we can
Hmm.
leverage that tool to help us help more people, then yeah, why not?
Exactly.
Okay, well, I just have maybe a couple more questions, Laura, and this next one I know might be a loaded question for you, but I'm curious, what kind of advice would you give uh, those of like wanting to follow in your footsteps and create or find a yeah nonprofit?
For starting a nonprofit?
Yes.
Geez, there's a dramatic pause here because even like before this call, I was like, oh gosh, don't do it. It's a lot of work. But of course, I don't want to discourage anyone from following their dreams and starting a nonprofit. Like I said earlier, the more the merrier. There's so much good that we need to do and so many people that need to be served. So the more the merrier. But I do have to say, on one hand, externally, it may look easy. You may look at survivingbreastcancer.org and be like, wow, like she's got the website, she's got social media, she's got these programs. etc. But what you don't necessarily see, and this is so true on social media in general, is like the blood and tears that go into this work all of the time. And so for me, it really has to be, and you talked to Jesse a little bit about like your why, like why are you doing this? And to know that it's okay to start, it's also okay to fold if the fit is not a good fit for you either. So giving yourself permission to explore or pivot, making sure that you have a really strong and solid board of directors that can help you achieve the goals that you want as a nonprofit organization, I think is really key. And also understanding that there's different ways of running a nonprofit or starting a nonprofit, I should say, where you could start off as a nonprofit that's totally independent. There's also types where you can get sponsorships from nonprofits and just be an arm and extension of that nonprofit as well. They're called fiscal sponsors. And so, again, doing your research and kind of figuring out what type of nonprofit you want to fall under, and why, and what makes the most sense for you. I will say that when I was applying for nonprofit status, it was like writing my own dissertation all over again. It was a lot of paperwork. The government wanted to see the 5-year plan, they wanted to see the board of directors, they wanted to see the registration with the state, the bylaws, all of these things, which really helped lay the groundwork for what we were doing. But the 9 months leading up to that submission and then keeping your fingers crossed that you get the approval was a labor of love.
Yeah, it seems like you went through quite a bit. Being that you're not necessarily from a business background, did you seek out any kind of resources to kind of help support you in this
Yeah, that's a
process?
great question. So this is another reason, and I think even online you don't need to be in Boston, but I was just so lucky to be in Boston to find other like incubator type programs and mentorship opportunities. So I knew nothing about starting a nonprofit, let alone leading one. So I just Googled, or I guess nowadays you can ask chat or whatever your search function is. But what are the resources in your town or an online class or course that you could take? A lot of them offer actually free or very minimal payment options as well. So I was able to attend like legal sessions and legal clinics to understand what my legal responsibilities were for starting the nonprofit. I was able to attend some entrepreneurship classes to kind of understand, okay, how are we launching this? And that gave me a foray into meeting other people who are starting nonprofits in the Boston area, even outside of the cancer space. So we were all kind of struggling together, if you will, but that community was really important to have.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think it's very important to realize that when you set out to, do something like this, very
Mhm.
huge, it might be out of your comfort zone, but like you're not alone with it. Personally, I've gone with reached out to the Small Business Association, and we have a
Yes.
strong group here. You just networking. Yeah, just don't try to go it alone, even though
Yeah, your chamber of commerce. I mean, the cities want you to be successful. You're starting a company or a business or a nonprofit in their town, so they want to be supportive.
yeah. Well, this has been a great discussion, Laura. So appreciative of you. If one last thing, if people want to reach out or find you, where do they find you?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So I'm Laura Carfang. You can reach me at laura@survivingbreastcancer.org, which is my email. You can follow Surviving Breast Cancer Org on Instagram. And if you don't mind, Jess, we also have an event coming up in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So if anyone is interested in supporting or joining our fundraiser, we are telling cancer to go take a hike on October 25th. So all of those details are on our website, survivingbreastcancer.org.
Awesome. All right. Well, that should do it. Again, thank you for joining me today, Laura, and I wish you all the success and all the best as you move forward.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Of course.